And here's the thing, folks, listen, when the pressures of this world come and the attacks of the enemy come and worry, fear, doubt, anxiety start coming out of us, we should find that odd because what's inside of us should come out of us. And the reality is when you have the peace of God, when you have the joy of the Lord, when you have all these things, when those attacks come, the more peace they should get, or joy, or love. You guys with me? Look, I preached this in Sweden to 700 pastors and leaders with David Leach, who also preached an amazing message. And when I was preaching the whole time, they looked like statues. I mean, stone cold, like. And I'm going, God, help me. I'm preaching, but I'm thinking, I need help, God. Get me out of here, God. This is tough, God, Now, afterwards, they were like, oh, thank you very much. It was a great message. Like, wow, you could have told me. You could have said something. I went to Philadelphia. I preached in an African-American church, and they're amazing. They're like, that's right. Preach it all, Brother Paul. Preach it all, Brother Paul. I'm like, yeah. So, feel free. Isaiah 9:6, it prophesies of Jesus. It says this, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders, and he'll be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. This is my favorite Bible verse. This is my favorite. Romans 16:20, it says this, and the God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. Not the God of power, although he's all powerful. And not the God of love, although he is love. He embodies love. But who crushes Satan under your own feet, according to the Apostle Paul? The God of peace. Why? Because his peace is that powerful. Look, there's many people who go through, the story of that I'm going to reference soon, and they talk about peace in reference to this story, but I believe they miss a major part of the point of the story. It's in Mark 4:35 through verse 40. Jesus tells his disciples to get in the boat, and we're going to go to the other side. I'm going to read it quickly for time's sake. It says this, on the same day when evening had come, he said to them, let us cross over to the other side. Now when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was, and other little boats were also with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Then he arose and he rebuked the wind, and he said to the sea, peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said to them, why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? Now, whenever I see Jesus interacting with the disciples, I'm always going, Jesus, what are you teaching them? I always want to slow down my reading. I always want to say, okay, Jesus, you're teaching these people how to live on earth. That's what you do when you disciple, right? You're teaching someone how to live. And so I always want to slow down my reading. What's the point here? And I don't know about you, but I always find Jesus really hard on these guys. Look, back then, there were 3 modes of transportation. Walking and running, donkey or horse, and going on a boat. Might not be popular today, but back then it was very popular as a common mode of transportation to go on a boat. And actually, where they lived, they went on boats many times. It was a common occurrence. I fly about 150,000 to 200,000 miles every year, depending on the year, equipping the saints for the work of ministry, empowering the church, evangelizing. That's what my call is to do. But because I have to do that, I have to fly a lot. And I know that flying is the safest mode of transportation that we have today. It's actually safer than walking. If you look up the statistics, you're more likely to get hurt walking than flying. But flying, in America, flights fly out thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of flights every day. 404 million American passengers flew in 2014. That's a lot of flying. I know that turbulence is just a difference in air pressure, and when the plane's taking off or when it's going through a cloud or on descent, oftentimes there'll be some shaking going on because of that difference in air pressure. I would consider myself a professional flyer. I mean, I could do it with my eyes closed. I can kind of breeze through an airport. But I can always tell when somebody who's sitting next to me is new at flying. Because oftentimes during that ascent, or maybe going through a bit of a storm cloud, there'll be some shaking going on, some turbulence happening. It's nothing, planes don't go down for turbulence, so it's nothing to be afraid of. But all of a sudden, the person sitting next to me will start white-knuckling that armrest next to me. They start grimming their face, and I'm just looking over. Oh, isn't that cute? They think they're in danger. Oh, silly. They must be amateur flyers. Okay. Must not fly a lot. But if I see that flight attendant or that stewardess get nervous, if I see them running around going, everyone, buckle your seatbelts, get out of the bathroom, sit down. Well, then I get scared. Then I'm commanding angels under the wings. I'm preaching, I'm praying in my prayer language. I got my Bible out ready for my last salvation message. Why? Why would I do that? It's because they're experts. They know what it's like for a plane to be in a situation that might not survive. And listen, folks, many of these disciples were fishermen, expert boatsmen. They knew what it was like to be in a storm that boats don't survive. And there was a point in this story where they allow the fear in front of them to get inside of them. And the one thing about fear is that it spreads like wildfire. It immobilizes you. It doesn't allow anything positive to really come out of it. The only thing that you can do when you're fearful, it's just humanity is this way, is that, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's to make sure the person next to you should be as fearful as you are. Have you noticed this? That's why fear spreads fastest in news. Like, oh, you didn't hear what happened? Let me tell you, you need to be afraid. It's time to be. And it doesn't say this in Scripture. I'm just reading into the text here because I love to visualize Scripture when I read it. But all of a sudden, the disciples, I can just see it. They go over to Jesus full of fear and say, Jesus, wake up. Essentially, this is a fearful moment. This is a time to be afraid. And Jesus, who gets up within the same storm, in the same boat, instead of accepting the fear that's in front of him, he releases the peace that's inside him, and he overcomes the storm.